everybody, welcome to Should You Buy It, where we help you decide whether or not a game's worth your time and money. And boy oh boy am I excited for today's episode. We're gonna play a game made by the guy responsible for creating Mega Man, and I sure love me some Mega Boy. That must be the postman now. Come in, sir!
Special delivery for
FUgameCrue.
Here's your package, sir!
Oh, cool. It's the game we've all been waiting for. Mighty number 9. Okay, by now everybody's aware of the poor reception this game's been getting, and if I'm excited to play a new game or decide to make a video on it at least, I try to stay away from other people's reviews. But with this shitstorm of negativity going around online with this particular title, it's been hard to go into this one with a neutral attitude, but god damn it, I'm gonna try. I still want to give this an honest look, since sometimes people are known to jump on the bandwagon of a popular opinion. With that being said though, I'll tell you right now that even with an optimistic approach such as thus, I just couldn't get into this game at all, and it felt like a chore the entire time I played through it. It didn't take me long to fully accept that I wasted my money on it, but for the sake of this video, I had to keep wasting my time. And I'd have to say, this is the most daunting video I've ever put together, even more so than the Devil's Third review. Don't get me wrong, Mighty number 9's not that bad, but to get the general idea of Devil's Third, it doesn't take nearly as long. But I don't really know where to begin with the details of why this game isn't very fun, so let's just jump right into it. First off, I'm sorry, but why the fuck does everybody use the Unreal Engine? I know the Unreal Engine's responsible for a lot of great games, but it just irks me to see this as often as I do and comes off as lazy to me. I've always tried to refrain from attacking this in previous videos like Tony Hawk and Devil's Third because I just kept thinking, well, Bioshock, Arkham Knight, blah blah blah. But it just seems when notably bad games are being panned everywhere, they were more often than not made with the Unreal Engine. And whenever I see this logo involved with a game, it makes me skeptical right off the bat. But anywho, why do these new retro-style games have you press B to access menus instead of A? Well, it's just this in Shovel Knight, but seriously, what the fuck? While the graphics aren't exactly amazing, I don't think they're nearly as bad as everybody else says, although it'd probably run fine on a PS2. Well, if they programmed it properly anyway. And for the graphics to be as subpar as they are, there's really no excuse for the load times to take so long. Also, when you get a game over, it asks you if you want to retry, and it just feels weird, like the game doesn't care whether you do or not. I don't really know how to put my finger on it, but if you've played this before, let me know in the comments if you think I'm crazy or not, or if you know what I'm talking about. With as many delays as this game's seen, I don't really understand why the frame rate drops like hell if anything's going on the screen at all. How is a game this simplistic having so much trouble keeping up when the graphics aren't even impressive to begin with? Granted, I'm playing the Wii U version, but I've heard the frame rates are fucked everywhere else too, so call my dad, I don't know. And how about the level design in general? It's just so boring. So much of it revolves around waiting. It feels like you're in an elevator the entire time, and that feeling is forcefully deposited into your butthole by the soundtrack. Remember how Mega Man games sounded? Yeah, you know, intense and fun. Now listen to Mighty number 9. Yeah, I know, it's not bad by any means, but this kind of music isn't meant for an action platformer.
I'm just kidding. Actually, I wasn't when I wrote this. After listening to the game's soundtrack online, I realized it's actually pretty good. I never would have realized this had I not went out of my way to go somewhere where I could actually hear it. When you're playing the game, it's barely audible. The least I could do is turn the damn volume up. The sound effects engulf the background music that some poor fucks worked on.
Back to the voice acting though. It isn't atrocious, but if it were, the game would be way better off. Well, at least for me anyway, because I'm a dick. I mean, at least we could have had fun and been more amused at terrible voice acting rather than a below standard performance. And what the fuck, their mouths don't even move. The power-ups aren't by any means bad, but there really isn't anything special here besides the electric thing, and the only reason I didn't look the proper name for it up is because the developers didn't put the time to make the game fully functional. And if they didn't put the extra time in it, then why should I make the effort to call the weapons by their proper names? That might sound a little harsh since it actually took me more time to write and record that than it would have for me to have just looked it up. So the joke's on me, I guess. To be fair though, while the power-ups aren't that special, the same can be said for most Mega Man games. There's usually one or two that are cool, but the rest are just random or rehashed from older games. But the main thing I did hear people love about this game is the number one thing I hate about this game, and that would be the dashing. While I do like to skip through levels as much as I can by spamming it, the fact that you're supposed to shoot enemies enough and then dash through them for some reason is an absolute deal breaker for me. My excitement for this game died immediately when I played a demo at Too Many Games 2015, as you can see in this clip here that I finally found a reason to use a year later. I just couldn't understand why that's supposed to be fun. It's not a bad mechanic to have if it were only used to dodge boss attacks and traverse through the stages, but to force it so hard in the combat where it's pretty much mandatory takes the piss right out of me. How would you like it if you were playing Call of Duty and every time you shot an enemy you had to walk in their general vicinity and press a button for your kill to count? I know you don't have to dash through everything you shoot, but every enemy takes like a million shots to kill even after they've already been stunned. And you do have to dash through the bosses, or else they regain their health for some reason. But it fucking sucks when there's multiple enemies in a row and you have to shoot one and then dash just enough not to hit the enemy behind him, because if you do, you're gonna take damage. If you dash through enough enemies, your weapon will be temporarily powered up to shoot through multiple targets, but the fact that your powered up weapon is time-based kinda sucks when the levels have you stand around and wait for shit to happen all the time. But yeah, when your weapon's not powered up, you have to do this, and that isn't fun. I generally just try to avoid combat altogether and rush through the stages, which is really sad considering this is supposed to be a spiritual successor to Mega Man. It feels like they tried to reinvent something just for the sake of reinventing it, as opposed to having a fun new gameplay mechanic. It's like Inafune, the game's creator if you're not aware, sat there with his thumb on his ass to make it look funny, but not actually sticking it in there, tried to think of multiple ways to spice things up until he finally decided, fuck it, how about we focus on dashing for some reason? Again, it's just the dashing being so forced in the combat that steams my clams. But I'm a reasonable and supple young boy, let's take a look at the positive aspects of this game. The character designs for all the bosses are actually pretty good in my opinion, and the boss fights themselves are a lot of fun too. Some of them can be kind of frustrating at first, but you actually have to analyze their patterns and think about what you're gonna do. And the environments and conditions you fight them in vary like they did in Mega Man X games, as opposed to being stuck in a small room like Mega Man games. My only gripe is that they have a little bit too much health. I mean, their patterns don't really change throughout the battle, and after halfway through, you just keep saying,
okay, I get it.
And the only other nice thing to say about this game that I could come up with is that I get the same feeling playing this as I do finishing an obscure NES game that wasn't exactly notable. And what I mean by that is that this game is frustrating, but once you get the hang of it and actually beat it, you have this weird sense of accomplishment. But other than that, this game just did not cut the mustard for me. I'm actually the type of person that gets excited when games are delayed because it tells me the developers cared about what they're putting out. And with all the games we have access to in this day and age, I'm in no hurry to find a new one to play since I can't possibly play everything as it is. But to all you ninnies out there who question whether or not it's a good idea to support things via Kickstarter, don't forget about Shovel Knight and realize that donating money to anything anywhere is a risk, because you're giving money to error-prone humans and you're not gonna get gold every time. But, sorry to say, you probably shouldn't give Inafune any more money, unless it's to like eat a ham sandwich out of someone's ass or something. That'd be kinda funny. With all that being said though, I cannot recommend Mighty No. 9 to you, more so for your time rather than your money because, let's face it, $30? That's chump change.